Hi, everybody. I'm Butch Stearns of the Pulse Network. We're here today at the Activate Network Summit talking about the power of your customer and employee networks, how to harness it, how to help you get results doing that. And we're here with the two principals of Activate Networks. That is Larry Miller, who is the CEO, and Nicolas Christakis, who is the scientific founder. I like that title. Can I get one of those titles?
I have no, yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Because I get to talk to Larry is what it means.
Let's start with the story about how you two guys met and how you started Activate Networks.
Well, I'll start on that. We met through my son. You can tell how old I am. When Nicolas gives a very popular undergraduate course, my son took the course, well, it's probably 6-7 years ago now, told me that I should call his professor, so I did. And we had lunch. And we did that for 3 years, because we're slow. But then we thought maybe we'll do something and build a company.
So you get a call from one of your students' parents,
Actually,
and you're like,
no. He got a free lunch. He's skipping that part. So what happened is we have a party at the end of the year for the students, and Larry came to pick up his son at that party and had some hamburgers and hot dogs, had a free lunch, and introduced himself to me then. And then we had a series of meetings, which I think were very formative and influential in sort of Larry and me talking about networks, and Larry kind of zeroing in on which applications of network science he thought would be the most promising, the most immediately useful. And that ultimately resulted in the company being founded.
So what was it in that first lunch, not the hot dog I would imagine, but what was it that spurred you guys to know that you were kindred spirits, that you were alike, that you wanted to do this?
Well, from my point of view, we had actually been looking to do something like this for a couple of years. We had seen early applications, frankly, that didn't work very well. And we were convinced that if we could find a technology that would work, we could turn this into a successful commercial venture. And as soon as I read Nicolas's work, it just, this is what we had been looking for.
So congratulations, by the way, on the success of your book
Thank
with
you.
James Fowler, Connected. I want to talk to you about that and the power, you call it the surprising power of social networks. Why surprising? Surprising to business people?
No, well, I mean, we think surprising to the people who read the book. It was certainly surprising to us. So when James and I began this work in around 2002, we were actually introduced in a similar way that I met Larry, sort of friends of friends. We were sort of set up, and we began to look at how interpersonal effects work, and we began to find that these effects appear in all kinds of phenomena that you might be surprised at. So people aren't surprised so much if they're told that the kind of clothes they buy might be affected by the kind of clothes their friends are wearing. But they are typically surprised when you tell them that their body size might be affected by the body size of the people to whom they're connected. Or they are surprised if you tell them that who they vote for and whether they vote even might be affected. Not only that, but they are often surprised to learn that they're affected not just by the people to whom they're directly connected, but also by the people to whom they're indirectly connected. So strangers to you, your friends' friends, or your friends' friends' friends, through a complex sequence of interactions through the network, can come to affect you. So we would think these are surprising in two ways. First, the variety of phenomena that show interpersonal influence, and second, the extent to which people can be affected even by strangers.
Well, it's interesting because, let me give you my take and tell me if you feel the same way. At the Pulse Network, one of the things we preach is that everybody's a publisher now. Everybody has an audience. As a matter of fact, Greg Verdino, who wrote the book, I forget the name of the book, has a great quote that says, everybody in the audience now has an audience.
Yes.
So when we talk about the power of social media, of social networks, one of the differences is that you now have an audience. And what comes with that audience, I know I grew up in mainstream media, is a responsibility with your voice and what you say. So by saying it, it's out there.
Yes.
So the common folk can now get that same feeling that only the real publishers, the real terrestrial media people got before. That changes the way people think, the way they act, and the influences that you're all talking about, doesn't it?
It does, in fact. And remember, there are two types. There's online networks, and they're the real networks, the networks we all form based on face-to-face interactions. And we work at both levels.
So I think it's also important to emphasize that it was always the case that that people influenced their friends and their neighbors and their coworkers around the water cooler and were influenced by them. And it was always the case that there were sort of public figures who could use broadcast media to reach many people to whom they have weak connections, right? So, some kind of TV character that's advertising a product or something has a weak connection to the people to whom he or she is speaking. So both of these things happen, but now we have a kind of a hybrid model which allows individuals to use media to reach other people to whom they're connected. But the crucial thing which Larry just emphasized was that even with online media, you might have 150 Facebook friends, but only some of those are people that you can actually have a significant impact on.
Right.
So figuring out who those people are and figuring out how you affect them is actually part of the challenge.
So let's finish up with a couple of points about this conference this year. Congratulations on your success of the conference. My first time here. It's phenomenal. The thought leaders, the speakers you've put together are great. The attendees all have had interesting conversations that I've taken the time to have. What you preach about harnessing the power of customer and employee networks and trying to get results doing it. What have you guys learned today? Because you guys both strike me as consistent learners and listeners.
Well, we try, and we were lucky enough to have some of our own customers come talk about their own experience, and of course we pick ones with good experience. Needless to say,
all of them have had good experiences.
Which turns out which is in fact true. But it's a pleasure to hear them present themselves and really tell us how excited they are with what they've learned and how they've been able to put it into practice and generate real results.
How about you, Nicolas?
I mean, for me, I think one of the great joys in an event like this is just seeing how some of the basic science that we're so focused on, like James Fowler and I, on sort of trying to be at the scientific frontier, how it is so beautifully and readily translated by a company like this into commercial applications that affect the real world. So we're busy in our labs trying to think up the next best thing, and Activate is like so ready and willing and able to apply some of these ideas in ways that we think are making a difference in people's lives.
Let me ask you a broad question, see if I can get a specific answer to end the interview. One is, give me one example of how a company can harness the power of either their customers or their employees' network that can get results. Maybe that's an eye-opener, one that comes up in conversation with potential clients for you. Is there one example that stands out or one that you like to point to?
Well, I'm gonna say there are two, just to be difficult.
He's the CEO, he gets two,
I
right?
get two.
That's how it works.
And because they're different sides of our business. One side is helping our customers identify their customers more precisely and help them target their marketing. So, for example, we worked with a number of pharmaceutical companies, helping them target their marketing very effectively. And as Pete Dewan just presented, they've increased their sales by 50%. These are huge effects in only 3 months.
Right.
The other side of our business, of course, is mapping employees at big organizations. And Rob Cross presented some of this data earlier. We've shown 22% increase in employee productivity based on optimizing the employee network within a big company. So these are big effects, and they're effects that can be achieved in months, not years.
Great points about mapping your employees and knowing who your best customers are, your advocates, the ones that are key to you. That's the answer.
I was going to give a more abstract answer. My abstract answer is that there are two ways you can think about intervening in human social interactions. One is by manipulating the connections between people, how you rewire the networks, who knows who you introduce to who, which connections you might want to cut, for example, how you structure social interactions to optimize the collective good, productivity, innovation, cooperation, and second, how you manipulate contagion within a network. So given a set of interactions among your customers, among your employees, how do you seed that network strategically to maximize the flow of whatever it is that's flowing? And so the two examples Larry gave are both examples of that. Right. One has to do with mapping networks and targeting the network, for instance, figuring out who should get some kind of an offering. The second has to do with, okay, given a certain network, how do you construct employee interactions to make them the most innovative, most productive, happiest that you can?
My 76-year-old mom, oh, sorry, Mom, I said her age. My mom has always said to me since I was a kid, it's who you know. But amplifying what you just said, you can structure who you know and who they know who they know.
That's right.
Interesting. The lunch was worth it, I imagine.
Okay, yes.
Wasn't it, when you guys started up?
Yes. And it was free.
For you.
For him. Yes, exactly.
Nicolas, my pleasure.
Thank you so
nice
much.
to meet you. Thanks for putting on a
you
great
for having
event.
Thank you
Larry,
very much.
too.
Thank you so much.
Nicolas Christakis and Larry Miller, the founders and presidents and leaders of Activate Network Summits.